Okay, so question time. Question of the day. How often should you be training your abs? Now, diet is obviously the key here. That goes without saying. But let's say hypothetically you've got your diet in check and you basically want to know how often should you be training your abs in order to make them look as aesthetically pleasing as possible. So I've been blessed to have a six pack for around 10 to 12 years now. Some people might say it's genetic. Genetics do probably play a small part. I have been told by numerous people, tongue in cheek, couldn't store fat if you tried, mate. And that is probably true at this point. My body is probably so fine tuned in at this point that it would refuse to store fat unless I was excessively shoving fat down its throat.
But I'm not planning on doing that anytime soon.
Maintaining this lean condition does involve a little bit of sacrifice. And I'm not talking about the calorie restriction, but I'm also talking about the mental acceptance that it is going to limit you in certain ways. So for example, if you're looking to pack on muscle, you have a desire to get much, much bigger, then obviously this isn't going to be the way for you. If you actually look at people who prefer to bulk and then cut, you'll often see that when they say stuff like the abs are starting to show, it's usually a really minute detailing in the abdominal region, as opposed to seeing things like the serratus and the upper abs, those veins that go down to your dick. You don't really see them. We're really looking at different ends of the spectrum here. I'm going to tell you what I've read, and I'm going to tell you what has been optimal for me. But what I've read is that just like any other muscle, the abdominals need time to recover and grow. However, what you need to understand is that there's various parts of the core muscles. This whole section from here down to the waist and even the lower back, all one big collection of muscles. And we need to work those all in order to get that look that we desire, that so many people desire. Another thing that I also consider is that in order to feel stronger when you're doing your compound lifts especially, you're going to need to engage the core. Now, I've heard people say core was on fire during the deadlifts because you're engaging the core in order to stabilize that section of your body. Some people that might be sufficient. What I have come to realize myself is if I warm the core up prior to training, then I'm going to get more out of my big lifts as well. So that is one thing that I do daily is I start every workout by stretching and also by doing stomach vacuums. Now, usually I keep this nice and simple, maybe like 5 sets of 10 seconds. That's it. Maybe leaning over a bench or even holding onto the knee pad on the dip station. And if you push it down a little bit, it gives that extra little bit of resistance. And that way you can really feel your core tuning in. It's that mind-muscle connection. Now from there, I'm going to do my workout and then I'm going to actually target my abs at the end of the session. When I was a little bit younger, I was training 5-6 days a week and I would dedicate a good 20 to 30 minutes at the end of each session to just training abs. Now, in hindsight, maybe that was a little bit over the top. Would I have benefited from maybe leaving abs off the table a couple of days? Perhaps. But I was getting the results I wanted to see and my abs were looking good. What I really want is definition. I want tightness, but I also want a little bit of a pop. I don't want it to just be all flat in that region. I want to actually see things. My current approach, having done the vacuums at the beginning of the session, I'll then start my actual session with an exercise that will target the lower abs, sort of variation of the leg raise, whether it be a hanging leg raise, be on the bench, in the dip station. And the reason I do that is because during that exercise, I'm going to be lifting my legs. They're going to be the resistance. So I'm going to want to really dedicate a lot of effort to them. I think that's going to be a little bit more exhausting than the things that are going to come later on. From there, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do a downwards movement. That's usually going to be some sort of cable resistance exercise. In fact, one little bonus exercise I've been doing lately is actually with the dip station. And instead of pulling downwards, you can actually push downwards. So using the dip station, put it on a nice general weight. And by pushing it down, but leaning forward, actually engage the upper abs with a little bit of resistance from that dip station. After that, to keep this really simple, I'll do some sort of rotational work. That's going to hit the obliques. And then from there, I'm going to do some stability work. Now, I don't really like planks. To be honest, I find them boring. So what I like to do is a renegade row, which is a similar concept of engaging the core, but then just adding that little bit of resistance and also balance. I like to do farmer's walks, which is, again, is a stability exercise, especially if you do them uneven. Let's say 30 kilos in one hand and 15 kilos in the other. So the challenge becomes engaging that side of the core and making sure that as you walk, everything is aligned. And then finally, one of the key exercises I like to do is just a basic hang, a dead hang, by using your toes in various ways. For example, bending them back for full flexion or for bringing them forward into hollow body position. During the duration of basically a 30-second hang, you can really engage the core in various ways. And again, that is a great way to stretch the abs out to finish up. Now, to take it back to the question of how often do you do this, I still do some form of core exercise every day. However, lately I've been trying to really up the intensity of my workouts. So that has left me with less energy. Now, at the moment, I'm not really feeling it because I'm still able to hit the core with maybe like 2 good exercises at the end of the session. And that for most people should be sufficient. But what I'd like to do is introduce a day where maybe I can dedicate a little bit more time to core. Maybe a rest day where I'm giving my central nervous system a rest, but I'm still going to do a little bit of core engagement and possibly some cardio. So maybe that's something that I'm going to have to program in. I've been training 15 years, but everything is always evolving all the time. One thing I don't think this industry gives enough attention to is the fact that as you grow up, lifestyle changes, as your priorities change, your training style must adapt with it. Now, if you make those small changes, you can still keep going, training naturally for a long time. If you continue to hammer things and try and perform the way you did 10 years ago when you didn't have a worry in the world, then you're going to hit a brick wall eventually. It's all about optimizing your surroundings. It's about optimizing your training schedule. It's about optimizing your sleep, your recovery. That's what I'm in the process of doing right now. Before watching this, if you've watched this far, have a look at your schedule. Have a look how you feel in the gym. If you've got all the time in the world to dedicate to the gym and nothing else, then stay in there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes extra and hit your core. You're not going to hurt for it. If your diet's in check and your abs are showing, then the most important thing is to respond to what you see in the mirror. If your abs aren't showing at all, continue to train them, continue to engage them, always be safe. But I think you need to look at your diet before you look at anything else. Hope this was a helpful video. Subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and hopefully I'll see you in the